Gordhan, good morning to you once again. I understand you with one of the journalists who were singled out by EFF leader Julius Malema.
Yes, certainly, and I'm sitting next to Farrell Haffajee, and I just quickly want to read a tweet that she tweeted out, I think it was late last night, after receiving these attacks from the EFF followers, after Julius Malema, of course, also hurled insults against some of her, rather against her and other journalists as well. And in one of the tweets, Farrell says, "So here's how the trolling army works. Malema names a bunch of us as Ramaphosa Defense Force. 4 hours later, I got an acronym, RDF, which I now understand is Ramaphosa's Defense Force, and threats attached. Same way Stratcom is used. It's dangerous." Why is it dangerous?
It's very dangerous. So trolling armies are when you use social media to attack people. It's usually done against journalists, but it can be done against anyone who's your perceived enemy. So where this is most prevalent is in the Philippines under the dictator Duterte, and also in Mexico, where you see the same thing happening to journalists. And it's very clear now that this is the pattern that's being followed largely by the EFF in South Africa. The journalist Ranjani Munsami has really had the full face of it in being attacked by EFF online.
Well, you know what? Every press conference of late of the
Yes.
EFF, you will hear Ranjani's name being dropped. During, I think even Flo Chivambu speaking a day before, Ranjani Munsami's name was dropped. Yesterday as well, Ranjani Munsami's name was dropped. What's happening here?
So I think that you'll find that any journalist who writes in an investigative or less than sweetheart fashion about the EFF will come under a similar kind of attack in their press conferences or on public platforms, as we saw outside here yesterday. Now, I know we have to have tough skins because we dish it, so you have to get it. We intrude on people's privacy, obviously, so we need to be quite tough in how we do our work. But what happened yesterday is that as soon as Mr. Malema mentioned Ranjani's name in the way that he did, you immediately saw people in the crowd making quite threatening sounds and looking up, because she works in the building over there. Now, this is going to make it very difficult for those of us who've been so named to cover the EFF with any sense of fairness and civility, being able to cover it properly, especially in the run-up to what's going to be an incredibly important election next year.
Does this mean that you might fear going to an EFF election campaign, really?
I don't want to do that. I've covered most of our democratic elections, and I would like to feel like there are no-go areas in this fine democracy of ours. I've never felt so before, but this time I do think that with the South African National Editors Forum, all of us, because this is an issue for all of us, have to make our voices heard to ensure that we can cover the EFF properly, cover it fairly, but also cover it critically when the circumstances arrive.
How do you do that? Because if you look at what happened in the past, at least with the ANN7 journalists as well, Julius Malema was clear that you come at your own risk. Well, he hasn't said that to you guys as yet.
Well, it goes back a little further, Aldrin. When Mr. Malema was the president of the ANC Youth League, he evicted a BBC journalist, Jonah Fisher, out of the Luthuli House headquarters. Same way as he called Paul Pretorius, the head of legal of the Zondo Commission. Yesterday he said, "You bastard, this is a revolutionary house," and he told the security to get him out. At the time, I feel we should have raised our voices more clearly, and perhaps this is another occasion to do that now.
To do exactly that. And this is not the first time that you've been through this. Actually, I think it was yesterday I was outside the South Gauteng High Court, and someone was reminding me of "Don't buy City Press, don't buy."
Oh, yes.
These things happen.
I guess. So I guess because it's just me, I've been counting.
Yeah.
Yesterday was the 6th time that I made it into a speech by Mr. Malema on a public platform. For the first few times it happens, it's really scary and it does have a chilling effect. By yesterday I was like, oh, there we go again. No, I haven't tried to call him. No, I haven't tried to call him. I feel like I shouldn't engage one-to-one, that this is an issue of industry and of craft, and that it should be done via the South African National Editors Forum, of which I'm a member. Saturday we have our council meeting, and I'm certainly going to be raising it there.
Any other recourse that you might be pursuing?
I suppose I study internationally, and the era of social media does open us up to all kinds of what are called rising threats to media freedom, trolling armies, the use of bots like we saw by Bell Pottinger last year. These are going to be new factors as we head to 2019, and certainly they are very quickly changing how we cover this Commission of Inquiry into State Capture and how it is regarded in the public mind. So at the moment, just studying those and beginning to understand them.
And finally, how do you respond to that allegation? Federal Hafaji, the Ramaphosa Defence Force.
Not at all. I think that all of us have a duty to cover every president fairly and squarely, and I think that all of our coverage will show that until now we've been quite fair in our coverage and stuck within our ethical code of conduct.
Feral Hafaji, thank you so much.
Thank you, Aldrin.
Well, there you have it, Tloli from Feral Hafaji. I guess the attacks on journalists will not come to an end, but more importantly is some of the allegations that the EFF leaders have been making outside this Commission of Inquiry, and what Pravin Gordhan said yesterday and dared them to come to the Commission and state those allegations under oath and bring evidence. Whether or not that will happen is something that we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aldrin. We also await to see if the Commission is going to comment at all on the attacks on its personnel. Thank you very much for that update.